I think we should all talk to ourselves either the way we would talk to a 4-year-old child or the way we would talk to our best friend. So if your best friend came to you and said, I feel so fat today, you would say, no, you do not look fat today. You look beautiful. You're glowing. And you would go on this whole rant about how wonderful they are. Because none of us need to feel bad about ourselves. The world tries to make us feel bad enough about ourselves. So no more self-talk that's negative. We are here to empower ourselves, build ourselves up, and feel beautiful and wonderful and confident. Hello, my friends. Welcome to It's All Magic. I am your guide, your host, and your friend, Devin Hine. And here we'll be discussing how to make your life truly feel like magic. I believe that our very existence on Earth is nothing less than a miracle, and that we all have so much potential to learn, to grow, to experience, and to create during our short time here. It is both my passion and my pleasure to walk this path of life optimization by your side, where we'll discuss topics like passion, purpose, intuition, manifestation, physical well-being, and much, much more. I'm a yoga teacher, a meditation and breathwork facilitator, and a national board certified health and wellness coach. But more importantly, I am an eternal optimist, a lover of life, and a forever student. It is my hope that with each and every episode, you too will finally start to believe it really is all magic after all. Ready to dive in? Let's do it. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another amazing episode of It's All Magic. If you're listening to this the week that this comes out, happy almost Thanksgiving, or happy Thanksgiving if you're here in the United States. And because it is Thanksgiving time of year, I wanted to pay homage to the concept of Thanksgiving and gratitude in today's episode. And so I have something kind of fun in store for us today. I will be sharing more about the concepts of love and gratitude, but before you close out of this episode and you think, my goodness, woman, I have heard about gratitude lists 5 million times. I get the point. No. Fear not. We are not talking about some cliche looking Pinterest thing like a gratitude list, although I completely believe in the power of them. Today, I will be sharing with you how I use love and gratitude as tools to combat darkness in this world. I purely, thoroughly believe that love and gratitude are two of the most powerful forces in this world, and they can be used to combat fear, negativity, hate, regret, and so much more. And those are some of the concepts we'll be exploring today. But before we get into that, I want to, of course, invite us to take a few deep breaths together. I will be completely honest and say I've had kind of an overwhelming week. I am still working the last month and a half of my corporate job while balancing this podcast and then everything else that life has in store for me. And so there's been a lot on my plate, if I'm being fully transparent here. And I know that I'm also not alone in feeling that way. So I think just taking a moment to breathe and come back home to ourselves sounds like exactly what the doctor ordered. So for today's breathing practice, what I want us to do is something called the 4-7-8 breath. I'm sure some of you may have heard of it. It was kind of revolutionized and popularized by Dr. Andrew Weil, who is an incredible physician in the world of integrative medicine. But the way it works is very simple, yet very, very powerful. So it's called 4-7-8 because we'll breathe in through the nose for a count of 4, hold our breath at the top for a count of 7, and then slow exhale out of our mouth as if blowing through a straw for a count of 8. Now, if you are new to the podcast, you may not have heard in past episodes where I explained why we elongate the exhale. So for a short synopsis, you can just remember this. Anytime your exhale is longer than your inhale, you are signaling to your body that you are safe and you are not in survival mode. And when your body knows that you're safe and you're not in survival mode, it can finally relax. So many of us are in that constant fight or flight stress mode all day, every day. And so giving ourselves just a few breaths to tell our bodies that we are safe is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. So I will be cueing us so we can do the breath together. So if you'd like to close your eyes, you're more than welcome to. If you're walking or driving, obviously, please don't close your eyes. So once you're comfortable, I want you to just exhale out from your previous breath to get ready for the new breath. And then breathe in through your nose for 4. Hold at the top for 7. Slow exhale for 8. Beautiful. Breathe in through the nose for 4. Hold for 7. Slow exhale for 8. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Slow exhale for 8. Beautiful. Taking a normal deep breath in through the nose. And just let this one go through the mouth with a sigh. Beautiful. You can flutter open your eyelids if you got the chance to close them. Oh, I always feel like a renewed woman after those breaths. So I hope that in some way brought you a sense of inner peace and calm and relaxation. So now that we have done our breaths and we are all together on the same wavelength in the same energy bubble, I want to first just introduce you to our 2 main characters in today's story. So the 2 main characters are love and gratitude. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I thoroughly believe that love and gratitude are the most powerful forces and emotions and vibrations in this world. And the reason why I say vibration is because every emotion actually vibrates at its own energetic frequency. Everything in the world, everything that's even made of matter, we are all composed of energy at the smallest, most minuscule level. And so we can actually measure vibrations of our energy. And we know that something like joy feels very different energetically than something like sadness. And in this book that I read a few months back that is absolutely incredible, it's called Ask and It's Given. The author proposed this concept of this kind of emotional scale or emotional spectrum. And the belief is that, of course, at the top of the spectrum, you have emotions like joy, hope, love, gratitude. And at the very bottom of the spectrum, you have emotions like grief, despair, hopelessness, sadness, depression. And everywhere in between that spectrum, you have every emotion you could possibly think of. So you would have, of course, discontent, you would have boredom, you would have apathy, you would have anger, you would have frustration. And that is actually the way we move up and down the spectrum, that you can rest anywhere on that scale, and we're all moving up and down that scale every single day of our lives. And because, as I mentioned, each of these emotions vibrate at a different frequency, if we are sitting in a frequency, in an energy, in a vibration that we don't want to be in, let's say you're in a very dark, low, sad place and you have had enough and you don't want to sit there any longer, you can choose to move yourself slowly up the scale. And another incredible spiritual teacher, Gabby Bernstein, has made this concept really popular in some of her books as well. And she likes to say to people, choose the next best emotion. Choose the next best thing. So if you're in that low, dark place, you can't always reach for joy. It's too far up the scale. But you can reach for anger, perhaps. And then you can finally get up to boredom and kind of discontent and then contentment. And of course, there's the full range of emotions. So as many emotions as you can comprehend or even think of, they would be on the scale. But you'll know that you're moving up the scale because of how it feels in your body. If you start feeling just a little bit lighter, then you know you're moving up. So if you take the example of sadness, grief versus anger, when you feel grief, you can be curled up in a fetal position on your bathroom floor, sobbing, feeling like your heart is actually breaking in your chest. That is an even lower vibration than something like anger, where you feel like you have this fire, you want to fight someone or you want to blame someone for something. And so even though anger might not be the emotion you want to land on as your final destination, it is definitely higher up on that scale. It is of a higher frequency than even sadness. And so I share all of this just to introduce the concepts of love and gratitude being more than emotions, but being these healing tools that we can use in our lives. And I have 4 situations that I want to walk you through today. These are 4 situations where I have learned to use love and gratitude as tools, as I said, to combat the darkness in the world. So the 4 examples or the 4 situations are combating negative self-talk, combating hate and negativity, combating regret or feelings of shame and guilt, and combating fear and nervousness. So I have a story for each one and then a hack or a tool or a trick for each one as well. So you can think of today's episode almost as Devon's emotional apothecary. So of course, an apothecary being a place where you could typically go to get some healing herbs or tinctures or teas. And in this case, you are coming to heal certain emotions. So if you are in a certain emotion, again, where you do not want to stay in that vibration and you want to move up that scale, you can use love and gratitude to bring yourself up that spectrum. So the first situation today is combating negative self-talk. So I came up with this concept a few months ago. I noticed myself getting a little bit into one of those cycles that we often get into, where we compare ourselves to others. We get a little bit down on ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect, to do perfect, to keep achieving, to stay productive all the time. And I woke up one day and I said, no more. I do not want to be this mean to myself, this hard on myself. There's no point. I'm doing the best I can. So I came up with this rule for myself. At first, I would laugh at myself whenever I would do this thing, but over time, it became so ingrained that it's now just become part of what I do. So what the tool is that whenever I find myself in that low place of comparing myself to another person or just speaking negatively to myself or about myself, I always force myself to say something positive about myself. So it can be something that I really like about myself. It can be something that I'm proud of myself for. But no matter what it is, when I speak to myself in a loving way, I imagine that I'm speaking to my inner child or my younger self. And if you haven't heard the concept of an inner child, it's the idea that deep within all of us, there is still that same 4-year-old that is playful and joyful and loving and kind and optimistic and maybe a little scared of the world. That same 4-year-old is within all of us. And when we take a moment to remember that at the end of the day, I'm really just that scared 4-year-old Dev, it makes me be a little softer with myself. It makes me kinder. It makes me more accepting, because I wouldn't talk to any 4-year-old the way I sometimes talk to myself. And I know that's true for all of you as well. I think we should all talk to ourselves either the way we would talk to a 4-year-old child or the way we would talk to our best friend. So if your best friend came to you and said, "I feel so fat today," you would say, "No, you do not look fat today. You look beautiful. You're glowing." And you would go on this whole rant about how wonderful they are, because you know none of us need to feel bad about ourselves. The world tries to make us feel bad enough about ourselves, so no more self-talk that's negative. We are here to empower ourselves, build ourselves up, and feel beautiful and wonderful and confident. So when I have those situations where I am looking on Instagram and I see a 6-foot-tall model who is gorgeous and knows exactly how to pose and has the longest, leanest legs I've ever seen, if I say a single negative thing about myself or comparing myself to this person, I instantly say, "You know what? I love my sense of humor. I love my optimism. I love my curiosity." And it brings me back to this little orbit of love. I fill myself up into this little bubble of kindness where I feel genuine gratitude that I am the person I am. Sure, I might not be that 6-foot model, but hey, I have a lot of other things going for me, as do all of you. You know, we were all made to be different, but to be wonderful in being exactly who we are. So the next time you have that negative self-talk creep into your mind, I want you to halt yourself and say, "Actually, I'm really happy I am who I am." And maybe list out a few of those things that you really like or that you're really grateful or proud of. So that has been incredibly helpful and healing for me. And just remembering that when we look at ourselves like the inner children we are, we can be a little gentler. And that's what we really need to be in this world. The world is rigid enough. Let's be gentle and soft and kind. So that is scenario number 1, combating negative self-talk. And how you do that is just turning around your negative self-talk into positive words of love and gratitude. Situation number 2 is how to combat hate and negativity. And I specifically say hate because there are so many forms of hate in the world. And you might be surprised to hear me say that because, of course, even the name of this podcast, I really believe that it's all magic and the world is good and people are amazing. And I do believe that. But I also know that there is darkness in this world. And the more light we spread, the less darkness there will be. And so even me acknowledging that light versus dark means that I understand there is negativity in this world. Even a few weeks ago, in all honesty, I received a pretty terrible hate comment. And when I first saw this hate comment on my social media, you know, my heart jumped into my throat, my stomach sank. I felt sick about it. I mean, it broke my heart in some ways. And the very first thought that I had, and this is going to segue me into this tool, is I sent that person love. This person had said incredibly hurtful things. And so my first thought was, wow, this person must be so hurt to want to hurt another. And so the first thing you can do when you encounter hate in the world, or you encounter negativity or judgment, something that brings you to that negative, dark place and you want to stay the light that you are, I want you to send that person or that group of people or that situation love. Wish them all the best, wish for the healing of their own hearts and their own trauma, and then send love to yourself as well. And the way I like to send my self-love is I will literally just put my hands on my heart and take a few deep breaths where I imagine that with every inhale, I am breathing in this warm light and love directly into my heart. And with every exhale, I'm releasing the negativity and the darkness. So you can do that for yourself, but you can also imagine you're doing that for others. And I think when we send love to the people where it might be the hardest to send them love based on what they've just said to us or based on what they've just done, it heals the world. As I said at the beginning of this episode, love and gratitude, they're more than just emotions. They are the most beautiful, powerful healing tools that we have at our service. And so learning to use that when you're in a situation full of that darkness or that hate or that negativity will truly bring more light and love and healing to the world. So after I have sent love to the person or to that situation or to the group of people, and I send it back to myself as well, I do one last thing. I do this technique called shaking. So when you shake, you literally shake your hands, you shake your feet, you can kind of shake your head out, you can shake your hips. And by shaking, it helps to shake out that negative energy that has perhaps started to sit in your body from having had that experience. So for example, a few weeks ago when I read that hateful comment, that negative energy came directly into my body because I ingested those words. It became part of my psyche, and I felt that sadness and that negativity and a little anger. And feeling that was not something I wanted to feel. I wanted to come directly into that place of love and heal that person from a distance and heal myself. And so what I did is I shook out my hands, I shook out my feet, I went with my mouth. I did everything I could to get the energy out of my mind and out of my body. And by the way, I'm not crazy. This is a real technique and it's incredibly healing. There are even certain breathwork techniques that will cause your body to shake a little bit. And our bodies actually shake because they're trying to release stored trauma and stored stress in the body. There's this very famous popular book called The Body Keeps the Score, which explains the concept of how everything we have ever endured in our lives, any bit of stress or trauma or challenge, does sit in the cells of our body, both physically and energetically. And then when we become parents, we can actually pass that along through epigenetics as well. And so all of that is to say that all the pain, all of the suffering, all of the trauma and the hate and the negativity, it sits in our body. And until we learn to release it through long exhales and shaking the body and jumping around and moving around, it will stay there. So that is how I work on situation number 2, which is combating hate and negativity in the world. So again, I will first send them love, send myself love, breathe love and gratitude and warmth into my heart. And then I shake it out to let it go. And that has been very, very helpful for me. And I'll put a little plug in right here. If you're still listening at this point and you want to be part of this community where we are spreading love and light and good in the world, I want you to please go to this YouTube video for this episode or one of my most recent Instagram posts or TikTok posts, and I want you to drop the sunshine emoji. When you drop the sunshine emoji and I see it, it will brighten my day. I will send you a sunshine emoji back, and right there, we will have just spread more light in this world. So let's make that our thing. If ever you want to show that you've listened to an episode or you're just saying hi, drop me a sunshine emoji, whether it's in a comment somewhere or in a direct message, and I will send it right back. So with that said, we're moving on to situation number 3. Situation number 3 is how to combat feelings of regret or shame or guilt. And I thought of this because I was having dinner with a good friend the other night, and we were playing these little social question games, or these question cards where you pull one out and it'll have a question like, what do you love most about yourself? Or tell me about something you've struggled with in the past year that you feel that you're overcoming now. So they're just these really beautiful, deep questions that allow you and your friends to get to know each other better and to really talk things out if you're still walking through them. And one of the questions was, what is your biggest regret? My friend and I both took a while to think about it. We were both sitting there pondering. And every time we were about to say something, we would agree that we don't really have regrets because we understand that at any point in time in our lives, we do the best we can with the tools and wisdom and knowledge we have accessible to us. And so whenever you think back to a time when you wish you had said something differently or you wish you had done something differently, remember that at that time, you did the best you could. And in all honesty, so many of us say, oh, if I could go back, I would have done it differently. Well, yes, of course. It's easy to see that now. But if you went back and you had the same knowledge and mindset you had then, let's say you still didn't have your mindset from today, you would not have done anything differently. I promise you that, because you didn't. If you thought to do something differently based on the tools you had accessible, you would have. We always do the best we can. And yes, sometimes we make mistakes. We're human. It comes with the territory. And so I bring this up to share. The next time you feel a feeling of regret and you wish you could go back and do something different or say something different, I want you to send love to your younger self. Send love to the version of who you were when that thing happened. And so even in our situations, me and my girlfriend, we thought back to those times that were coming up in our minds, and we just sent our younger versions love and understood that they did the best they could then. And when my friend and I maybe had said things that we didn't want to say or had done things we didn't want to do in the past, and we felt this small feeling of regret, we knew that we were probably coming from a place of hurt. So often when we say something and then we regret it, it's because we were sad or angry or scared. Fear is one of the lowest vibrational emotions, and it can drive us to do things that we don't want to do when we are most aligned with our joy and our love and our gratitude. And so understanding that you might not have been in the best place and operating from your top potential, it allows you to bring some of that softness back into your life. And remember that it's okay. You did the best you could. And that is how I like to combat feelings of regret or guilt. Just remembering that you did the best you could at the time with the tools you had accessible, and then to send the younger version of yourself love and understanding. And final situation, number 4, is how to combat fear and nervousness. So this one I came up with a few weeks ago. At this point, it might have been maybe a month and a half ago. I was asked to lead a stress management and breathwork workshop at a venture capital firm in Oakland, California. And I was really looking forward to the workshop, but I was still really nervous. When I woke up the morning of the workshop, I woke up feeling kind of anxious and jittery. When you wake up and you're kind of in a cold sweat and you didn't sleep that great and you're just like ready to get going because you're too anxious to lay in bed. That's exactly how I felt. And so my husband Cal and I went to our little workout spot. We like to hang these gymnastics rings over a swing set on a playground, and we'll do the gymnastics rings together. But at the end of the workout, I was waiting for him to wrap something up, and I started just dancing to some music on my Spotify because I felt like dancing will help to, release some of these jittery nerves and bring me back to a sense of confidence and strength and joy, because that's how dance makes me feel. But the first song that played when I hit shuffle on my Spotify was not really a dance song, but it was exactly the song I needed to hear. It's called They Live in You, and it's from The Lion King. And in this song, I believe Mufasa is sitting under the nighttime stars with his son Simba. And Mufasa is sharing that our ancestors are all in the stars above us. They're watching over us all the time. They're guiding us and they're supporting us. And they never go away. So if ever you feel lost or alone or afraid in this world, know that you have so many people, so many spirits, so many guides in the sky trying to support your path. In the song, it literally says, they live in you, they live in me, they're watching over everything we see. In every creature, in every star, in your reflection, they live in you. And that song was exactly what I needed to hear, because I suddenly started thinking about all of the support I have from my ancestors of past and my ancestors of present. I was thinking about my parents and how I received so many of the characteristics I admire in them because I am their daughter. I like to believe that we all receive the best characteristics, the best genes from our parents and from their parents and from their parents' parents, and that the best of the best gets passed down through the bloodline. And so I was imagining that as I was going to go into that workshop later that day and speak from the heart and share these healing tools, that I would have the charismatic speaking of my father, and I would have the self-assurance and boldness of my mother. And I just, in my mind, I went back further and further through the generations of lawyers who had to speak using evidence, but also confidence. And they knew that if they spoke with confidence, it would be far more convincing. And I have generations where, my dad's dad was a mayor and he spoke with such charisma on the stage. And he really empowered people and brought them together as a community. And so in every direction on both sides, I started feeling more and more of a sense of pride in my ancestry and gratitude for my bloodline. And so I want this to be a reminder for you as well, that no matter who your family is, no matter what your familial connections are, even if there is some trauma or strain in those connections, I want you to think of the best things, the best characteristics, the best abilities and strengths that have been passed down through your bloodline that you have gratefully received. And think to yourself, what makes my family bloodline special? What are maybe some of the threads, the similarities that have been passed down through the generations? What has my family been endowed with that I can use to serve my purpose in the world? Is your family really smart? Is your family really funny? Are they curious? Are they passionate in some way? And so I want you to just think about what your family's strengths are and then use that to guide your path forward. And knowing that I had my ancestors in the sky watching over me, guiding me, my parents across the country, energetically cheering me on, and all of them for generations and generations pulsing through my veins and helping me to do my best work at that workshop, I suddenly had no nerves left. So the way that I combat fear and nervousness is just to think of gratitude and love and pride in my ancestry, in my bloodline, and remembering that we all contain the strongest characteristics from our families. And when you do that, you also feel a lot less alone. That day, I started feeling like, I'm not delivering this workshop on my own. I'm delivering it with the guidance and support of all of these spirits and beings. And on top of that, I know I have their support fully. And so that is how I combat fear and nervousness. So as a quick recap, we walked through how to combat negative self-talk. And how you do that is to speak to your inner child and to say loving things to them. Think of what you're grateful for. Think of what you're proud of yourself for, and send them soft and warm love. The second situation is how to combat hate and negativity, whether it is hate in the broader world or darkness and negativity in your workspace or in your community. You can send them love, then you can send yourself love. And lastly, you can take some deep breaths and shake it out. Literally shake your hands, your feet, your head, your hips, everything. The third is to combat feelings of regret, shame, or guilt. And that is to send your younger self love and remember that you did the best you could with the tools you had access to then. Finally, to combat fear and nerves, think of everything you are so proud of and grateful to have from your bloodline, from your ancestry. Think of the strongest qualities of your extended family and how it's all been passed down to you for you to best serve this world. So that wraps up my emotional apothecary tips for today. If you liked this episode, as always, I ask you to please rate and review the podcast on the Apple Podcasts app, on Spotify, leave some comments on YouTube, anywhere that you can find podcasts. Please drop a like, a comment, a rating, or a review, or all four. And last thing, if you remember from earlier in this episode, I want you to drop a sunshine emoji in my direct messages, in my YouTube comments, in my Instagram comments. Let us share light and love in this world together and allow our community to be this force for good in the world. That is why I'm doing this at all, and I know you all want to be part of it. You are attracted to this podcast for a reason. You feel the same drive to share love and light and kindness in the world. So let's do it together. And with that, I wish you all my very, very best. I'm sending you love, I'm sending you gratitude, and I'm sending you hugs. Okay, until next week, my friends. Bye.